Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, God, indivisible. Please join me in a moment of silence for Richard Bianco, retired employee of the district, Shirley Scaracella, retired employee of the district, USAF retired Colonel Irene G. Dennison, a 1948 graduate of the district, Devin Coleman Jones, a 2015 graduate of the district, Richard Lane, a retired employee, Kathleen Robinson, a teaching assistant at Smith Road Elementary School, Barbara Frieden, a retired employee, and Beverly Esty, a retired employee of the district. Thank you. Presentations. First presentation is the North Syracuse Junior High Building Planning Team. Please come forward. I'm going to swing over there, Mike.
Chrome users are open. While we wait for that, I'm Kelly Moen. I'm one of the co-chairs of the BPT at the junior high. It's Danielle Tedisco. I'm Kelly. All right. So first of all, we wanted to share what makes up our BPT. So at the junior high school, our BPT is made up of voluntary members. So it can be any teacher, teacher assistant, anyone can join the BPT. So currently it's made up of a pretty diverse group of almost someone from every department, and not necessarily, and almost always not our department chairs, which is kind of nice when we're back in our department group sharing information that we have information from a staff member and a department chair member in each one of the departments. Just our building demographics. Our building is a big building with our 8th and 9th graders, as you all know. This year our numbers are pretty steady compared to the last few years, but we've been decreasing, which you can definitely see in our hallways.
Except our free and reduced lunch is in. So where we are going with Vision 2020, this is one of the goals of BPT this year, is to really look at the document and see where we can our art teachers, some psychologists, 2 math teachers, AIS, and EF. Our initial goal is we want to create a forum to discuss different interventions that for at risk academically or behaviorally. At our last meeting, interventioncentral.com, I believe it's a website, so that was our last task, was for each member to go back and look at different classroom or in guidance or anything for behavioral. We are also looking to develop for teachers or anyone who works with the student has concerns regarding. We also need to develop a process to roll out to the staff, and or kind of goes back to the interventions. Some of the social psychologists are going to plan on attending workshops to obtain more information about how RI can be used to help guide the process for reading concerns. Org will be attending our next social emotional learning and student behaviors, how they are blocking the learning process.
One of the other things we're looking at with Vision 2020, and this started last year as a conversation in BPT, is what's really best for our kids as far as scheduling. The length of time that we see them in our block schedule right now, a lot of our staff members, and there's some research showing that that's not necessarily beneficial for them, especially some of the students that our teachers are seeing every 4 days. So we have a group of staff that is working on looking at what a new schedule for the junior high could look like. So far, they've been to Liverpool and Baldwinsville. They've been in contact with the high school to see what they have rolled out in their building to see if that's a type of schedule that could work for us. And really just to try to figure out something that's better for seeing our students, seeing them more often, more seat time for them, and not as much of a turnover, because we're seeing that block schedule may not be what is necessarily best for them.
We also have students who are interested in joining up on the to share their input. And that's one of the big drives for most of our groups.
Another really neat thing that we have at the junior high school is something called the Give and Take. And this originally started with our guidance department just as a way to help out the students in our school who need clothing, whether it be at the change of season, so they need new T-shirts, new sweatshirts, or our PE clothes for our students. So in the guidance office, they have actually dedicated a room in there, and our I don't know if it was students or teachers from our technology classes, but helped I believe it was the students in the class, to produce like the actual cabinets so that it really looks more like a store. It's easy to go in and shop and see what they need. And there's always emails going out and people donating almost even too much, they've said to us before, where they don't have enough space for some of the clothes coming in, but students are using it. And we see a big influx, especially when it starts to get cold out, with sweatshirts and jackets and things like that. So the Give and Take has been, and for semi-formal time, I know they stock up on some of the dresses that the kids can wear for semi-formal, which is really nice.
And this started up last year with peer tutoring. We currently have 10 ninth graders, that dedicate their time to tutoring either their ninth grade peers or eighth grade students in any subject they can be helpers in. And 5 eighth grade students were recruited to start tutoring. Molly Murphy runs this program, and she does a fantastic job. Like, I'm a math teacher, so I encourage my students to go. She'll send us emails Tuesday evening saying what student went. That's nice. We as teachers get the feedback. Asked and is one of mine, and she said after school every day when teachers can't, she goes to peer tutoring. Fantastic and nurse. They were filled last week. I think she said they had 20,
we walked through for the
25
meetings. It was
kids
filled.
either getting help or giving help. So that's been a nice addition.
And we continue to have amazing clubs at the junior high school. Currently, we have over 20 clubs. Some of these are ones that students have kind of driven to be, and just found an advisor to be in charge of. So it's all about them. And others that are our traditional clubs, like Drama Club and the Optimist Club. Of these 20 clubs, we have 5 of them that are paid advisors. So I definitely think that it speaks to the advisors of the rest of the clubs that are continuing to keep them going because they know how important it is to their students. And, of these clubs, they all do amazing things, but our Communities Builder Club, I think, goes above and beyond with how much they're in the community, giving back every holiday season. They're making some sort of craft, or right now they were learning how to crochet after school today so they can make scarves to be donating in the future. So, I mean, that's one of the clubs that we see out in the community often, although all of them do an amazing job.
And many of our clubs have joined working together. Government and our class of 20. One of our next focuses of the year was the task of creating the junior high staff committee group. So, with our staff committees, and so there's about 10, 15 staff members in each group. And questions. And this was the overarching, yes. Members.
So for purpose, I mean, obviously it's an overwhelming amount of respect and being driven, and that we're there for the students. Why teachers teach at the junior high is, I definitely think that as we read through the results of this, we saw that everyone's there because they want to share. They want to make kids excited about learning as their main purpose for being a teacher. And because we do have such a unique makeup of just the 2 grades at the junior high, I think that we do find ourselves special and unique because we see, kids coming up and young adults leaving us. So we have that definite dynamic of, those incoming 8th graders that seem like babies, and then they leave us as 9th graders as almost adult-like. So it's really those 2 years that we're helping them create the next stage of what their school career will be like.
And we worked with staff on this mission in 2 different settings. One against staff committee groups, and then we did it if anything was different depending on who you were with. As well as we asked the students, why do you as a student come to school? We pulled these students in the common themes that
So for future with working with our mission, we're actually going to meet this Friday with a group. We're hoping to put together a subcommittee of people who would like to continue to work on the mission so we can actually start to develop something, throughout this school year. With our group that we have with staff, we're also going to make sure that we involve any of our students. And often it comes from our clubs that we have, but it'll be open to any students. I know that a lot of the English classes have been working and asking these 3 essential questions to them to be able to bring up to us when we come up with our ultimate mission, because it is about the students.
And we are continuing, our goals from last year were a 3-year process, and it was to increase proficient and advanced by 5%, and to also strengthen positive communication. So we have currently done our first round of RI testing in all of the ELA classes. Data.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
difficult on the
advanced
screen.
is
It's
the
too bright.
green.
So the next round will go, and we did see that throughout last year, we don't have the numbers to show what we went up in, but our reading inventory data did increase throughout the school year last year. So we're hoping to continue with that. And we also are still working to strengthen our school positivity. So there's some things that we know we do well and that students like and the community likes to see us doing. So one of those is our Evening of Excellence that we'll have again this year. We're increasing our social media use, mostly with using Twitter and Facebook, and I know that the kids are logging into that and actually checking out some of our reminders. And then, as always, our school's logo has just always been to be nice, which will probably take some place in our mission statement in some form. And the kids really do adapt to it. They hear it every single day, and it's kind of a general theme for us.
All right, and this year, all of our departments separately created a reading goal using the RI and data, a goal based on data generated from department data, and a goal that each department came up with those 3 goals, and here are some examples we got back from.
So this year, I mean, unlike last year, we decided to let departments really decide what they needed for them as we continued with our 2 individual goals for our building. And that is it, if there are any questions.
Damage to the building. SELA seems to be what's driving it because they have us monitoring it, and that's what we've got to ask. Process that is started at the lower levels, but it's definitely going to
Excuse me, do we have reading teachers doing AIS? Like you're considering or
when we went to the block and we started with the 84. Ladies, everybody gets it.
I just had some comments. First of all, I just want to thank you for a very nice presentation that you're looking at changes and benchmarking with other districts to try to, find anything that'll help successful. You're looking awesome. Clubs that you offer are great. I'm interested. Maybe we could get a demonstration here.
They actually
Yeah.
they don't applaud each other.
They know all the lingo.
know?
Yeah, snaps, right?
It's interesting when they do it.
So what percentage of the students participate in these clubs? such a transition coming from the right.
Hard to get the kids to the middle school year.
Honor and merit roll percentage. It is.
Just the other day, and
I would just like to comment, you may have noticed my name was listed as a BPT member. For the last year or so, I've had the privilege of being the district steering liaison to the junior high's BPT, and I really want to thank Danielle and Kelly for their leadership, incredible leadership. This presentation has a lot of substance to it, and I know that it's difficult because you don't have a lot of time to meet and staff committee work and all of that, so you've done an incredible job, and I think that your leadership is helping to move the building forward, so thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And next, the Cicero North Syracuse High School Building Planning Team. Mr. Leclerc.
Everybody. Joining me tonight is Greg Broughton and Carol Gaynor, my co-chairs. All right, so thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you tonight about some of the things that are going on in the high school. And everything that we try to do falls in with the district mission and the district goals. Keeping goal number one, student achievement and learning, and fostering an environment, supportive environment for all stakeholders. We always try to keep this quote in mind. It's one of my favorite quotes from Judith Billings, and I think it speaks for itself. We keep the students at the forefront, and we know that we have to change, as a lot of times the demands change, and we do that through creating a collaborative culture. All right, so this is year 2 of our academic building goal. We're focusing on our learning standards and keeping our standards at the forefront, but this year, challenging the staff to keep their assessments in mind and measuring how students are doing to those standards, which goes in line with Vision 2020 standards-based grading. So we are getting that movement going right now. All right, so I'm not going to go over all of these, but I'm going to highlight some of the new things. Some of these are continual from last year, but I will touch base on, as I mentioned earlier in the fall when I presented the data, these are some of the new classes that we have. But we just got done testing all of our students at the high school, grades 10 through 12, in RI, looking at our reading inventory. Sometimes we make the assumption that students that are in the high school are reading at grade level, and that's not the case. So this data got sent out to all the staff along every content area, and working with Dawn, and we're going to roll out some interventions for those students. But we're also doing some professional development around how can teachers support and help our students that aren't reading at grade level. And then we're also, the math teachers are using the MI data to identify the gaps, and then through the classes, through the workshop classes, helping those students as well. We hosted our first college fair this year. We had 90 colleges, as you are aware, and we had over 1,000 people attend that night. We tied it right into our financial aid fact night. So with that is something that we will continue to do here at the high school level. Last year we started work readiness training for our students that aren't going to college. They want to go into the workforce right after, so through working with Access VR, right now we have 14 students going through a 12-week program. Resume building, interview skills, what to do, what not to do in an interview, some career exploration. So we're going to do 2 sessions. Last year we started it late. We only did it in the spring. We're going to do spring. Right now we're focusing on the seniors in the fall. And in the spring we're going to do a mixture of juniors and seniors. New this year, we partnered with OCC. We have 11 students going up there once a month on a Saturday for 3 hours. And it's called Onondaga Pathways to Careers. So they're looking at all the career options. These are the students that are interested. These are students with disabilities that are interested in going to college. And OCC, we send a lot of our students there to OCC. They're going up there, they're doing some career exploration, similar to the work readiness, preparing for an interview. But the best part about this is that if they attend there, they're automatically accepted in one of those pathways, and then they're immediately hooked up into the OCC with a mentor services, and then they support them along the way at OCC. So that's new. We have a lot of new teachers at the high school this year, so we formed a new teacher PLC. We want to support our new teachers, so we meet with them regularly just to go over some building procedures, whatnot. We do some learning with them, some PD with them, and that's been going very well. Looking ahead, we want to do more with interdisciplinary collaboration. So, for example, we started mass media communications. We want to partner, our journalism class is going to partner with that, and our journalism students are going to write the news stories and then be part of that class. And that's just one way, but we're also, like I mentioned in the fall, social studies and English are collaborating due to the new transition exam and looking at the writing. So we're looking to do more interdisciplinary. We have many new classes starting next year. We've added 14 new classes. We've looked at our enrollment in some of the electives that we've had all those years, and I challenged the departments to look at student interest, kind of think outside the box. What's going to get kids to take these electives? And they did a great job, so we've added 14 new classes, eliminated some of them based on the enrollment data. We're always looking to continue our college credit courses. We're going to add in those, I think you did receive the update from the program of studies of what classes are added, what are taking out. Okay. So we're adding, one of the ones I'm really excited about is super writing. This is basically freshman English. So it's going to be, I think, a good alternative for our students. Examining our instructional spaces. So I'm not sure if Annette updated you, but the grant that we received, we've updated our library, our north section of the library. So I'd encourage you to maybe come out and take a look at that. I'm also looking at what can we do with classes. So here's a picture of Amy Ferletti's class. Something simple. What it does is it increases the collaboration within the classrooms. It's different than a traditional sit in desks, sit in rows. And so looking at how can I use my budget money to help teachers that are interested in changing their instructional space. And then Tier 1 instruction, looking at the instruction within the classroom. You know, we're very departmentalized. We're a big building. You know, as you know, we have over 2,000 students. It could be easy for a student to fall through. So we need to start talking about students more, bringing that student to the table, not get out of being departmentalized, and talking about kids. And that right now we're in a process of identifying and supporting students at risk. That's what they are. They're at risk. And so we're developing a process like RTI. I know you know what RTI is, but it's not mandated at the high school, but it's so important. And we're in the process of doing that right now to roll out for next fall. And then, I'm really excited about this, a change in our schedule at the high school for next year, implementation of academic advisement. I'm going to turn this over to Carol and Greg to tell you a little bit about that.
Well, it started the conversation. And in both years, we saw, the question was asked, I feel connected to my school. Both years, large numbers of students said. Last year, 31% 43% or 700. So among BPT members, we started talking about, okay, what could we do? One of the things that came up was to create in a room, kind of downtime in some ways, but they'd be with the we looked at the benefits not only in terms of we're also looking at the ability for kids to do after school, kids who kids whose time is not it would also give our counselors a chance to actually which now they really can't have a class in some sort of an assembly formation. And so the ability of our counselors to discuss college presentations could be done in that time. Basically, I mean, pilot for a year. Possibilities, though, can snowball. Us be able to is just, I think, good.
One of the things, just branching off of what Carol said, there was a point in the process where we had discussions, and I was discussing it with my own department, in the science department, and I mentioned to a couple of veteran teachers, and I taught back when we had the midday homeroom, and I've been teaching now since 2007, going through with our current model that we have. So for the last 10 years, we've been in this model. And I go to graduation every year. I volunteer with graduation. I love to see the kids graduate. I love to see the culmination of all of their hard work. And I made a point to one of the other teachers as we discussed this, and we said, you know, you were also here during that midday homeroom time. And during graduation back then, I used to go to graduation for 24 kids. I would see my 24 kids, and I would be with that row, and I would see all those kids graduate, because I've seen them grow from 10th grade all the way up to their senior year. I've seen the different trials and tribulations they've gone through. And now, with this current model that we have, we're there for, 5, 6 kids that we remember from our classes a couple years ago or so. So this, looking at this, is that transition back for a lot of the staff that remember the days and remember the connections they were able to make with that group of, 24 to 25 kids that are in that room. So what it really could look like, basically it has a lot of freedom to it. We have it from basically, it could be a quiet study hall, could be a silent study hall, could be just in low talk time, kind of a deal for the students that are in there. The students are going to be assigned alphabetically within their grade level, going through, much like our old homeroom system was, within the groupings. So we have the quiet study hall. We could also have peer tutoring within the grouping or advisement. Again, Carol alluded to the makeup, redos, and retakes. Because again, this would give us about 30 minutes of time, 20 to 30 minutes of time in there so they can come in to make up a quiz or such. Again, alleviating their need to stay after school. Mentoring, both within student to student or just discussions within the grouping. There's lots of college discussions that happen in my AP classrooms and such. Community building within that grouping, or also the teacher working with a small group of students that they bring in. So we have it set up so that the teachers can give out, the only way the students can come into their room is with a pre-signed pass. So a teacher is in charge of how many kids will come in. So if you're doing something that you need to have, 20 students that day, we can allow for that. And then we can allow for another person to come in to watch your room. Or if you want to have a situation where you need to work with 2 or 3 students on a lab or something, you can give them passes and have them come in. Same idea. So you can do small group, large group, whatever the case may be. It's very fluid in that way. Logistically, we're looking at 75-minute classes. Currently, we have 78-minute classes, so we're going down 3 minutes per class. But by doing so, that alleviates and we're able to gain 30 minutes in the middle of the day. So what we have is we have block 1 and 2, and then we will have the academic advisement period after blocks 1 and 2, before lunch and everything else. Then we will then have block 3 and 4, and just like our current model, the lunches are incorporated into blocks 3 and 4. So we have a downtime where the building is set. So the only place that the students can be is within their academic advisement situations, or anywhere that they got a pre-signed pass to, moving forward. The process for which with this passed, like I mentioned myself, we discussed it at multiple department meetings. We had 3 listening sessions in the building, going through with BBT. We held a building vote from all the stakeholders, and it ended up passing with a 74% rate. We needed 70 to pass, and we passed it with 74% approving the trial year. At the end of next year, we'll have again another set of surveys throughout the year to see if we need to tweak it, to modify it as we go, so that ultimately at the end of the year we have a final product. And with that final product, we'll have another set of listening sessions, and then we'll have a vote at that point of any tweaked schedule potentially going forward to instill it, pass the trial year.
So the opportunities are endless with this time frame. I mean, we can be very creative in what we do. And keep it in mind, again, academically, it's beneficial because academics, teachers can pull those kids that they can't get to after school. Either they don't stay after, they work, they got to go take care of they got duties they have to do outside of school. But it's also, great way to connect with kids. We talked about encouraging our staff to do some community building activities within your classroom. Imagine, it just adds that safe environment. And I think it's got very big potential that we can do with that. Talking to our PE teachers, you get those kids that just have to get some energy out. Well, why not look at doing some intramurals during that time or something? They don't belong to a sports team, but kids may need to there's a lot of things we can do. So we're really excited about this. All right, that moves into our culture goal. We're always keeping that at the forefront. Culture is a big, it's important to me. And these are things that we've continued, that we had last year, that we're continuing some of the things. Got our winter spirit coming up. We always like to make that fun that last week. Here's some new things. All right, so this year we partnered with Page's Butterfly Run. That's kind of like the organization we are helping out this year. We're going to do a dance marathon in March, and the students will be getting some pledges and raising money for this organization. Page's Butterfly Run works with, our pediatric cancer unit, and it's just a great organization. And earlier in the fall, we sold butterflies in the cafeterias, and we raised almost $200. We presented a check, and I know it's small, but anything helps. But I think this has a potential. What I like about this is that it could be kids all across, diverse students coming together for a common cause. That's what I like about it. So we November 9th, we held a pep rally. It's been in hiatus for a long time. We brought it back, and Ms. Beach joined us and participated. Still got it, squad. And but it was a great time. We had a good time, and we got the students involved. We had a student co-host the event and tried to get the students involved as well. There's a picture of it. The gym was packed. It was great. But we didn't just honor our athletic teams. We honored our marching band, our co-curriculars. We mentioned that the play was happening, so we promoted things just outside of athletics during that time. Let's see. What else we got? Graduation walk. This is going to be year 2. Last year was fantastic. My goal this year is that all the graduates participate. We had 483 graduates last year participate, so that was good. It was a good turnout, but again, I want all of them. And I think it's going to spread. So we'll be doing that again. Student ambassadors, this is new. This is for our students that come in mid-year, whether it's 5 weeks in, 10 weeks in. It's a big place to come, and to get connected. So working with Suzanne Brogan in the counseling department, we have a list of volunteer students, and they take these new students under their wing. They go and they pick them up for a cycle, A through D, and take them to each of their class. They sit with them at lunch. They introduce them to their friend group and try to help them get connected that way. That's working out very well. It has alleviated some of the stress of our new students coming into the building. Let's see. The other one is my parent newsletter, video parent newsletter. I've done 5 of them already. Again, no more than a 3-minute thing, just informing and highlighting. I've had multiple parents come up to me at athletic events, say, "Hey, I like your video." I feel like I don't sound really good on it, but they like it. It's more formal, and they put a picture with a voice, and so it's been going well. I will continue Star Leadership Camp. Last year I took 16 students to Camp Oswegatchie. We did some leadership activities. We spent all weekend with them, as you know. I will continue that this year as well. And then working with Tim Bednarski, we started a captain's club, and this is something we'll continue during academic advisement. We just went and served at the rescue mission and took 12 students down to the rescue mission. They worked in the product room, unloading the clothes off the trucks, getting them ready, and putting them out in the showroom. That was a great event, great time. Thank all my BPT members. We work really well together, and we're getting some positive changes in the high school. Any questions?
Just a couple.
Sure.
They kind of tie into that schedule change you were talking about. When does the school day end? Given that change you're talking about? Advisory period in 3 and 4, is there still?
Yes, yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we still maintain the 2 to 3
start time,
time.
the end time, never.
Feeling that 3 minutes to build that.
That's right.
And while we're looking at like a 30 minutes for academic advisor, it still is going to leave a.
Things like department meetings happen, but in that
Yep.
But tell me about PD Thursday. Is that
Yeah, that's our.
just a regular after-school spot, or is there some?
So you can get really caught up in the high school, leading a high school, and get caught up in the management piece. So our job really is to be, educational leaders. So that's what we do on Professional Development Thursdays. We started that last year. So every Thursday we offer some type of professional development. Whether it's on standards-based grading, some of the initiatives from the district down in our building. So we're always doing some type of offerings.
I wrote. Right, I think. That flip faculty meeting, what is that?
Yeah.
I go to flip classrooms. I'm
Right.
just curious, are you doing another one of those?
Well, it is a video. It is a video, but instead of like on the first Tuesday of every month calling the whole building into the auditorium to do a sit and get material, I flip it, and then I have them. That's time where they can get together with their colleagues to collaborate and work on curriculum or whatever they need to do. So I do meet with them throughout the year, but the majority of the time I communicate with them so well that I don't have to get them into the auditorium. It's just a time that they can have with students after.
Interdisciplinary collaboration.
Yeah. Where to
Yes, and
squeeze it in?
Where would you try and squeeze
So,
it in?
for example, with journalism collaborating with mass media, this has already been in the works. So journalism and mass media communications are going to be scheduled at the same time in the schedule. So our teachers will work together, and the students will be right there. That's what I meant with that. Yeah.
There you go.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say great job. Awesome to see, and I'd love to hear all these changes to address ideas.
I just want to add, I think one of the things that struck me, although I knew all these changes were taking place, the connection back to the student survey, listening to student input, the fact that they told us that there's a large number of students not connecting to school. And I just have to say thank you to all of you and for your leadership in moving the building forward to making changes to change that. I do see that the changes will help more kids to connect, so.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Okay, we've got the 2018-19 fund balance and budget assumptions, and that is going to cover for Don. who was excused this evening.
All right, Dan, why didn't it come up? Okay, so as you're aware, Mr. Keegan could not be with us this evening. He did work with me last week, and he put this together, and I assured him that I could cover for him, but I'm sure not as eloquently as he covers the topic, so please bear with me. It's hard to believe, but it's already time to start talking about putting the budget together for next year. Don always organizes this to talk about fund balance, reserves, economic factors, revenue assumptions, expenditure assumptions, and of course the budget timeline. So if we look at the total general fund balance, and this is fund balance in relation to the end of last budget cycle, so June 30th, 2017. If you look at the figure, total general fund balance, about 2/3 of the way down, the $19 million figure, all of the items above it, listed above, make up that $19 million. And as you can see, the third line tells us that we committed $2.7 million of that fund balance to the budget that we put together. Encumbrances were listed as of June 30th, 2017. And sliding this down a bit, you can see that the total general fund balance, 3.99%, keeping in mind that 4% is the rule of the state. So again, taking a look at unassigned fund balance as of June 30th, 2017. You can see the figure at the top indicates that the fund balance as of June 30th, 2016, we started at 4.87% of the budget. Revenues came in almost $2.4 million less than expected, which is somewhat concerning. However, we had favorable variances in expenditures of $4.4 million, which offset that. So in the long run, the fund balance appears as though it dropped $1.2 million, but we actually put $1.5 million into reserves, which I will show you in a moment, and overall gained $300,000. And again, the percentage of the budget in terms of reserves, 3.99%, were right at what we aimed for. And again, looking at reserves, you can see that we gained in reserves from June 30th, 2016 to June 30th, 2017. And by looking at that, you can see where we allocated that money. So let's talk about economic factors. Economic factors that we look at are based on the CPI, Consumer Price Index, the percent change. Certainly look at factors related to our local economy and business activity, unemployment rates, and population changes that impact on our enrollment right here within the district. The Consumer Price Index, the growth in the annual tax levy, as you know, is limited to 2% or CPI, whatever is the lesser of the two. And we look at information, although it's released on a monthly basis, we use CPI through December, which is released in the middle of January. And you can see here the percentages and the changes over this past year, and obviously November, December are not out yet. Last year with the budget, the figure that we used was 1.26%. It looks like we might be on track this year to be somewhere around 2%, which would be better for us. So let's talk about local economy and business activity. Obviously, the local economy impacts unemployment, enrollment, and the growth or decline in our tax base. It's consistent with the national and state economy, and it's improved drastically over the past 5 years. Within the district, we continue to see meaningful new housing development, especially in the northern portion of the district. And also we need to keep in mind that we have significant amount of rental property in apartment complexes, and we see that this is what's drawing and encouraging new entrants to the district. We also need to keep in mind that tax certiorari cases seem to be on the increase, and that's when business owners request that we take a look at their assessments. And as you're aware, that is something that has been happening more frequently. So let's talk about unemployment for Syracuse and the New York metropolitan area. If you look at the figures, and again, focusing on the last column with the annual figures there, we do have all these percentages, if you can see them for month by month over the years. But from 2012 to 2016, unemployment rate went from 8.5% to 4.9%. So that is very encouraging in terms of taking a look at how that may impact our budget process. And this shows a nice visual of the unemployment trend in Onondaga County. So obviously improvement there. However, we do need to take a look at this. If you look at the blue line shows that although unemployment has decreased, when you look at the economic status, this refers to our free and reduced lunch rate in the district. That has increased. And students with disabilities remain pretty consistent there, and those are obviously high-cost needs students. So it's important that we do keep this in mind in terms of our own local community and how it relates to our tax base. So, some revenue assumptions. In the area of building aid, the education law requires the commissioner to revise the assumed amortization schedule for remaining debt services, and this happens at the end of each 10-year segment. In addition, we are looking at aid payback that may be required for several building projects, and we hope that those issues would be addressed in connection with the next legislative budget. In terms of general state aid, we've talked and continue to talk about foundation aid, and in reality we're concerned that New York State budget deficit may actually result in lower aid to schools. Property tax increase in terms of the CPI and staying within the tax levy is something that needs to be considered. And we do want to mention that the Smart Schools Bond Act, although this program does continue to be funded and we're reaping the benefits of that, those revenues will not impact anything in terms of the general fund at this point. Foundation aid, something we're really tired of talking about. However, the situation still has not gone away. And we know that in 2007-2008, the enacted state budget included a 4-year phase-in of foundation aid. That has not happened, and this is no secret that the promised phase-in has not happened, and we're probably going to need to continue to talk about it this year as we have in the past few years, although in reality we need to be realistic, and that's probably not likely to come in at the way that we had hoped. So this is one of Don's favorite slides to show because it really shows how much money we've lost in the shortfall in foundation aid that we should have gotten by year. And in this current school year, 17-18, once again, we're getting over $8 million less than the aid we were promised when that lawsuit was settled. And every time I look at this, I can't help but think, can you imagine the things that we could be doing for students if we had that money? You know, the money all along, or even at this point, just the money that they owe us for this year, for example. So, very discouraging on that. So, expenditure assumptions. We're hopeful that positive trends in the district will continue in terms of health benefits. Not so positive retirement costs. We know that TRS is going to increase from 9.8% to between 10.5 and 11%, and ERS going from 15.8% to 15.7%. So that will definitely impact our budget as we put it together. Contracts, most of the contracts are settled, and most of them are a 3% increase for the 18-19 school year, so that will help us to build a realistic budget knowing that figure. Fuel cost, this continues to be a volatile market, and in terms of energy costs, Don reminds us here that although we go through BOCES, we enter into a 3-year supply agreement, and the new agreement will be bid next spring. So at this point, we don't have that exact figure, and once we do, we'll be able to move forward in terms of figuring that into the budget. And we continue to evaluate opportunities to control costs through BOCES services. And last but not least, here we go. This is the first of many times that you will see this budget process timeline. And we're down to the third point there. So we've put together the budget calendar. We've had some initial, we're going to begin meeting with administrators throughout the November through February time period. Tonight we're talking about budget assumptions, and as you can see, we'll progress through this. And I do know that we've scheduled a board budget subcommittee for next Tuesday, and I know typically we've had 4 of you on that committee. This year we have 3 of you committed, and I know that Connie sent something out today asking if a 4th person would be interested in attending next Tuesday. So 'tis the season. We're beginning to talk about this already. Anybody have any questions?
Not a question, but we all know the squeaky wheel gets the, so what is the plan to?
So we know that Paul's heading up the legislative committee, and we've had several meetings, and I believe, and Paul, certainly you can add to this if you'd like. I can't see with this light show, but we're approaching our legislators in terms of inviting them to events to see the good things that we're doing and why we need funding to continue to do more things for students. And I know that we have 2 students attending the legislative breakfast with NYSET, and I know that in February many of us will be going to legislative breakfast, and we also plan to take students from the legislative committee to meet with our legislators. Paul, did you want to add anything?
No, I was going to do that in the report, but we haven't had a meeting since the last board. I think having them see what but you're beating your head against the wall, it seems, every year. What's needed, but play the same game, then the legislature, the governor will come below that.
The other thing, too, when we talked with the students on the legislative committee, we're at a different point now. You know, our message and the message that the students used to give to the legislators were, hey, my older brothers or sisters had all these opportunities and we don't because we had to make so many cuts. Although that still may be the case, most of the students now, they don't really know what we had before because they've been caught up in this for the last several years. So we're really trying to talk about aligning what we need to Vision 2020. And I know that you were there when we did the delayed opening day celebration on Election Day, and Giorgio gave an eloquent speech. He is on the legislative committee, and he's prepared to talk with them about what it means to move forward. I think much better than any of us adults could. I know. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Item 3, comments from the audience. We have no one signed up this evening. 4A, board committee reports, comments. I think, Paul, we've got you covered, do we?
I think we've covered that,
Okay.
yes.
Mary, policy?
We were supposed to meet, we had to unfortunately cancel our meeting to attend Cohen.
Okay. When's the next one scheduled? Do you know? Ed?
Not till January.
Anybody else? Aaron? George? Just what Connie mentioned with me, I was able to talk to the honor roll kids, pardon me, at the junior high last week, Thursday, Friday, and rather encouraging to see over half of those kids at the junior high being on the honor roll. A lot of parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters showed up as well. Dan was with me on Thursday, and it's a very, very nice thing. Good to see the kids doing well. So, anybody else? Annette?
Just a couple of brief things. As I mentioned when the high school gave their presentation this evening, that I was pleased to see that they took feedback from the student survey. So when we talk about surveys, I just want to mention we're in the process of tweaking and formulating the community survey to make sure that questions are directly aligned with our goals. And that will be coming out again after the holidays. And tomorrow I have one of my favorite events that I get to do in this position, and that's meeting with my student council group. And we're going to begin to talk in the near future about tweaking the student survey, because that's something that we want to continue to do.
Item 5, routine action. 5A, consideration of approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Ed of November 20, 2017. B, consideration of the classification and school placement of disabled students certified by the District Committee on Special Education. C, consideration of classification and placement of preschool disabled students certified by the District Committee on Preschool Special Education. And D, acknowledgement of business office reports for September 2017. I will entertain a motion to approve 5A, B, C, D as a group. Mr. Leon. I'll take Mr. Harrington on this one. Don't want to leave him out. All in favor? There we go. Item 6. 6A, Gaylord Brothers Incorporated versus the Town of Cicero. A rather lengthy resolution here. But basically, the Board of Ed authorizes the attorneys to settle the tax assessment proceedings with Gaylord Brothers as specified in these reductions of assessments for multiple years. And the district treasurer is authorized to pay refunds not to exceed $60,000. So I'll take a motion for this. Mike Murizio, Paul Fafaglia. Roll call, Connie.
Michael Schuster.
Aye.
Michael Marizio.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Thank you. Now, 6B has got to change, right? Oh, we were. Thank you. Oh, there it is. Board of Action to acknowledge receipt of the 2018-19 fund balance and budget assumptions. Somebody make that motion, please. Ms. McDonald. Galen. All in favor. There we go. Thank you, Connie. No problem. I should have noticed that. Okay, 6B has got to have a change in it. Jason,
Yes,
how's that got to be worded?
the food service department identified a need for additional staffing at CNS in the kitchen and has asked for an increase of 0.6. The agenda listed as a 3.5-hour food service helper. That is supposed to be a 5-hour food service helper.
Okay. So the motion will be modified to say the resolution to create a 0.6 FTE 5-hour food service helper at Cicero North Syracuse High School.
That's correct, and I did confirm that with Wendy Swift, the food service director, just
Okay.
this evening. So
Okay, thank you. All right, is there such a motion, please? Ms. Scanlon, Mr. Leon, all in favor? Carried. C, designated gift toward the purchase of the new scoreboard at Michael Bragman Stadium. I believe that's Sparrow's Meat and Deli. Am I correct, Connie? It says Spears, but I believe it's Sparrow. If it's up there, it's Sparrow's Meat and Deli. $2,000 for the scoreboard sponsorship contract, and Aspen Athletic Club $3,000 for the North Syracuse Central School District scoreboard sponsorship. So the resolution is to accept those gifts. Ms. Scanlon, Ms. McDonald, all in favor? Carried. Acknowledgement of a gift. Bread for Schools Run Corporation has donated $45 to the general fund. It's 100% of the runner's registration fee for employees and or students from the North Syracuse Central School District who participated in the 9th annual CNY Bread Run as a way of giving back to the community. So we certainly appreciate all of their efforts, and the board action is to accept with gratitude the above gift. Motion, Ms. Scanlon, Mr. Maurizio, all in favor? E, the appointment of an impartial hearing officer to appoint Aaron Turetsky. For this request, I actually had to authorize it last Friday and then put it on tonight for formal acknowledgement. So this will acknowledgement the appointment as the impartial hearing officer. Motion to accept. Mr. Harrington, Mr. Fufalia, all in favor? Carried. Retirements. Mandy Murphy, special ed teacher at Main Street, retires with 16 years of service, and Richard Grimble, automotive mechanic at the Transportation Center, retires with 30 years. We wish them both a long and happy and healthy retirement. Personnel reports: 7A, instructional personnel. 7B, support staff personnel. Is there any need for discussion of any of these? And I'll take a motion to approve 7A and B together. Ms. Scanlon, Mr. Fufalia, all in favor? Need a motion for executive session for the purpose of receiving an update on negotiations with the North Syracuse Education Association bargaining unit, and to receive an update on 2 legal matters relative to potential litigation, and to review the employment history of 2 individuals with no action to follow. Motion, Mr. Harrington, Ms. McDonald, all in favor? We'll go to executive session at 8:10.